What's up, guys? Happy Monday. We're going to continue on with the quadratic formula today. And today we're going to look at a specific piece of the quadratic formula called the discriminant. And it's going to tell us some important information about our quadratic equations. So remember this guy, right? He's going to be our good buddy for the kind of the rest of the unit, the quadratic formula. Well, this part inside the radical here, b squared minus 4ac, that has a special name, like I just said. It's called the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, right? And this table is going to tell us what the discriminant is useful for. So when we're calculating the discriminant, we've got three options. The discriminant could either be positive, it could be zero, or it could be negative. If you think about it, those are the three options of anything you simplify. It's either going to be positive, discriminant, or positive, zero, or negative, right? So if you calculate b squared minus 4ac and you get a positive number, that means you have two real solutions to your quadratic equation. And remember, solutions are x-intercepts. So that it's going to graphically look like this. It's going to cross the x-axis twice. Two solutions. If you calculate the discriminant and it's zero, then you have one real solution. And this is what that looks like. It's where your vertex is the x-intercept, right? Because it's only going to cross the x-axis one time. One real solution. And then your third option is you calculate your discriminant and it's negative. That means you have no real solutions. And in Algebra 2, you'll learn about that means you have two imaginary solutions, but we can wait on that. So if it's negative, you have no real solutions. And this is what it looks like. Your parabola doesn't cross the x-axis, right? No x-intercepts, no solutions. So let's work out an example of each one of these three types: positive discriminant, discriminant of zero, and negative discriminant. And let's kind of see this in actual problems. So first up, x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. So again, I just want to reiterate something. When you're solving quadratic equations with factoring or with quadratic formula, you have to have it equal to 0. So if it's not equal to 0, you've got to do some simplifying, some solving in order to get it equal to 0. For these examples, I've already got them set equal to 0 just to keep things simple, but just to reiterate that. So we want to know how many solutions does this quadratic equation have? And the way we're going to figure that out, what we just learned, is we can use the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, right? And we already know a is 1, b is negative 8, c is 16. So I went ahead and worked that out for us. Don't forget, b squared, put that b in parentheses, especially if it's negative, because when you square negative 8, you're going to get a positive 64, right? Minus 4 times 1 times 16. Well, that ends up being 64 minus 64, which equals 0. So we calculated our discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, and we got that it was 0. So let's go back to our table. What happens when the discriminant is 0? What does it tell us? That means we're going to have one real solution. In other words, our parabola is only going to cross the x-axis at one place. One solution, because our discriminant is 0. And just to help you guys kind of understand what we're doing here, I went ahead and solved this quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. And I got that x equals 4, right? 8 plus and 8 minus, that gives you the same answer, x equals 4. That's the only solution we had. So that confirms the idea that it was one solution, right? And listen, if you're still having trouble setting up the quadratic formula, go back, rewatch my video from last week. If you still got questions or concerns, email me, remind me, Canvas message me, whatever. Even if we need a video conference, we can do that. Just this is super, super important, not just now, but for Algebra 2 and beyond. Got to know how to do this, right? It's okay if you're not amazing at it right now. It's very new, but keep getting better at it. Keep practicing it. Pause the video, look how I set it up if you want. And some of you guys might be thinking, hey, didn't we already calculate b squared minus 4ac? We did, right? We know all this in here is going to be 0. So if you want, when you set this up, if you've already calculated your discriminant, you can just put 0 in here, right? Because you know we calculated this and it gave us 0. I went ahead and set the whole thing up just so you guys could kind of see it worked out. But like I said, quadratic formula, plugged it in, I got x equals 4. And when we look at the graph of this equation, look at what happened, right? It's got one x-intercept, right? And where does it cross the x-axis? At x equals 4, right? At 4, 0. So that confirms our solution of 4 and our discriminant telling us we were going to have one solution, right? That one x-intercept at 4, 0. So let's look at another example. Negative 5x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0, right? Got it equals 0. How many solutions is this one going to have? Again, let's use our discriminant. B squared minus 4ac. B is 1, A is negative 5, C is 1. When you calculate this out, you get the discriminant equaling 21, right? And remember, we had 3 options. Positive discriminant, negative discriminant, discriminant of 0. So when it was 0, we had one solution. What does it mean that we have a positive discriminant? Let's go back and look at our table. When the discriminant is positive, that means what? 2 real solutions. It means it's going to cross the x-axis twice in this case, right? So positive discriminant, 2 solutions. Let me show you this one worked out. Again, A is negative 5, B is 1, C is 1. Plug everything in. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. When you calculate this guy out, you get 2 solutions. You get x equals negative 0.36, and x equals 0.56. So just like we thought we were going to get 2 solutions based on our discriminant, this confirms that, hey, we are right. With that positive discriminant, we are going to get 2 solutions, right? And these are the ones that aren't as pretty. I rounded these using the toggle button on my calculator, which I showed in the quadratic formula video. So let's see this thing graphed. And look here. It's got 2 x-intercepts, 2 solutions, right? And where are our solutions? At the solutions we found from the quadratic formula, negative 0.36 and 0.56. Positive discriminant, 2 solutions. One last example. We did one that equals 0. We did a discriminant that was positive. This one, you probably know what's coming, right? 8x squared plus 8x plus 3 equals 0. How many solutions is this going to have? Again, let's use our discriminant. B squared minus 4 times A times C. And yep, look what we got here, a negative discriminant. So what does it mean to have a negative discriminant? Let's go back and look at our table. Positive was 2 solutions, 0 was 1 solution. Negative discriminant means no real solution. You see that? It's not going to cross our x-axis. So let's see how that's going to look for this problem. Again, a negative discriminant means no solution. And let's look at it down here. So for this example, instead of plugging in the whole quadratic formula, right, we already calculated B squared minus 4 times A times C. We already calculated that part in there. We got negative 32. So I just went ahead and put negative 32 in here. And the reason I did that was to show you guys that look at the issue that's going to happen when we try to calculate this. We set it up right, but when we try to calculate this, look, when the discriminant's negative, can we take the square root of a negative number, right? Does that give us a real answer? It doesn't, right? We haven't learned exactly what that means yet, but all we know is that there's no real number square root of negative 32, which is why we're going to get no solution for this. Okay. And so whenever you run into something like this, you're just going to write no solution. See if I can spell that right. There we go. No solution. And this is what that looks like. Look at my parabola here. Is that ever going to cross the x-axis right here? Definitely not, right? Because it's not crossing the x-axis, that means it does not have any solutions, which was confirmed by when we worked it out and by when we calculated our discriminant. So those are the three options: positive, zero, negative discriminant. And again, the discriminant is that special part inside the radical of our quadratic formula, and it tells us the number of solutions we're going to have based on whether it's positive, we're going to have two solutions; zero, we're going to have one solution; negative, we're going to have no solutions. And we can understand that by envisioning the x-intercepts in these examples here. So again, message me, remind me, email me, whatever. I'll be happy to help you out with this. I know it's tough learning online, but you guys are doing amazing. So keep up the good work and have an amazing rest of your day.